my name is Ben, and I help startup making pitch decks. And recently, I helped a startup raise 17 million for the Series A using this exact framework. Now, I cannot share the deck because it's very confidential. We'll sign any of our client, but I find those slides here to show you an example of what to do and what not to do. So what I'll do in this video, I present you each of the slides that you need in your pitch deck so that you can raise capital. Without further introduction, let's get started. The most important thing, there's going to be a lot of most important things. Every slide is super important. And what you need to keep in mind is that you'll see that some of those companies that I've raised, like this company raised, 4.3 million, here 4.3 also. Oh, I fucked it up, but this one raised, no, this is correct and this is incorrect, right? But this one will raise 43 million. You'll see that sometimes even startups that have raised a lot have a shitty pitch deck, right? Or not shitty. And what I'm trying to say here is like a part of it is shitty. So as your job as a founder is to get something not so bad, right? And it's easy to get to get something not so bad if you follow the framework that I'm going to present you. So the introduction, super important slide, and the idea here is to explain what you do so that when I look at the first slide, I'm like, yeah, this is it. I know what I'm getting into, right? And so a bad example of this is this: eliminating global waste. What are we speaking about? Are we speaking about trash? Or are we speaking about, is it this could be a sustainability platform? Like, no, it's an e-commerce platform. How could you know? You could know, right? So you start looking at the deck and you're confused, which is not what we want to do, right? Another bad example is the bank you can build on. Like, what the fuck am I seeing here? Like, what does that even mean, right? Or even worse, the two chairs. Like, what about, what does it mean, right? Or here, nothing, right? You have the platform, but you get into it and you don't know exactly what we're going to speak about. Bad job. Now, what does a good example look like? With a little bit more light. A good example look like this. Although it's a bit long, the only tool that brings together your finance, accounting, and business accounts. Boom, you arrive, you know what you're speaking about. There's no doubt, right? This is a little long for my liking, and a solution to make this a bit more consumable would have been to highlight those, or and that kind of break the pattern, and you itemize the thing, which make it easier to read. So that's a great example. And we look at another one, the most loved CMS for developer and marketer across all industry. Fucking clear, right? And so this is exactly what we want to go for. And here, this is interesting because somehow they did it in two slides. So here there's like the two chairs and then they have this, but in here they had their mission, and which was a world where we all have access to exceptional mental health care. They could just take, giving access to exceptional healthcare everywhere, right? And mix those two slides together and not have two. Anyway, let's move on. So now the lesson here is something short that describes what you do, that is not so abstract like what we have here, but if possible, something quite condensed that I can directly understand. And something I have not mentioned, but which this one is also doing great, is give an idea of what you do, right? I look at this, I'm like, yeah, that's a SaaS, right? I look and here like, oh, that's a SaaS. I look at this and I'm like, is that a SaaS? What they exactly do? Unfucking clear. So that's not what you want to do. Anyway, let's move on to the context. Now, the context slide, you probably never heard about it because nobody really speak about it in those terms, but after making countless decks, this is the word that I defined, that I decided to use for that is, I just learned about what you were doing in the intro. Boom, why should I care about it, right? So here, if we take the example, making real estate investment available for anyone, anywhere, like European real estate is on the rise. Spain shows some of the biggest growth among the region. It's like, oh, okay, like I should care about real estate because it's growing a lot, right? Here for a betting platform, the betting market will grow by 600% by 2030. However, the real potential is yet to be unlocked. It's like, oh, okay, so here I don't have the other type, but the bottom line is like, hey, why should I care, right? But here we present it in a good light. Like we open the door and we're like, XYZ industry is a thriving sector, expanding, X% annually. Like, give me a sense of why should I care about what you do, right? Why it's big, right? What it has some startup potential. Boom. That's the context. Giving people a reason to give a shit about what you do. Now, in here we build a narrative, like this is what we do, and we rise, like oh wow, like we go high and then boom, a problem occur. So here we have the macro problem. And again, this is probably something you haven't heard of, but this is critical. It is critical to give an idea of, at the macro level, what is the issue, right? So for example, here, company waste 1 trillion due to poor planning. So this is kind of good in a sense that it's kind of good because it's giving me a sense of, how big it is, how big is that problem, but the problem is that here we still don't know what's poor planning. This is the same company that have, poor waste. So here, still a mystery, right? But here, for example, we have healthcare cost, 3.5% of the US GDP. Like, we give a negative sense, this is kind of the same as the context, but here we dive into a problem and we give a size of a problem, like, hey, look how big is the problem, but we don't explain why, right? And the reason, in some time, so for example here, you mix it, right? Women health is huge but fragmented, and this is also possible, right? And what I'm trying to say here is that it's a great asterisk to put here. It's like, there's no fixed rule about what you can and what you cannot do with a pitch deck. It depends, right? But the important thing is that after you introduce the context, you need to speak about how big is the problem that you're trying to solve. Here's a good example. As I mentioned, 1 trillion, 12 point, also naming, and this is a very good example, naming the amount of ICP. That's 12 million people operating software, right? Okay, so macro problem, you introduce the problem by speaking about the size of the problem. Then we go to the micro problem. And the micro problem is what most people understand is, why do we have this? What's the underlying issue for this? And I think here a great example of this. So as a macro problem, they had, we are in a mental health crisis. And so here, like, hey, the design here, terrible. That's for another topic. But they explain we have a big problem, right? And it even had this slide before. But anyway, big problem. And then they explain, why this is happening. Because it does not work for everyone, right? It doesn't go fast enough. It has unwanted side effects, right? So we have the size of the problem, and then we explain why the problem happened. And this is super fucking key. This is super important. So for example, here, this is where you dive in the problem, right? So here, investing in real estate requires knowledge, and the complexity discourages potential users, potential buyers, right? You explain the problem, right? That's the goal of the site. Here, and here you should look at the headline. It's like you explain why it is happening and what's the impact on your ICP, right? It's like, and you can have it here, right? It's like, investing in real estate requires extensive knowledge, and boom, the complexity discourages potential buyers. So the buyer actually don't do it. Here, same thing, discourage potential bettors. Like, it's old and bad, discourage potential users. So that's the goal of the micro problem. The micro problem is why the problem happens, and what is the impact on the sorry, I'm thinking as I'm doing this. And what's the impact on your ICP? Okay, next, the solution. Now, the goal of the solution is to work super well with your problem, right? So what I mean by that is that you've presented here why and impact, and so the solution should explain specifically how you solve the problem. And then since you solve the problem, we don't have the negative impact, so you need to speak about the positive impact. What does it do for your ICP, for the person you solve the problem for, right? And so, for example, here, and importantly, you really need to work together, right? So here we say, investing in real estate requires extensive knowledge, and the complexity discourages potential buyers. And then the solution, we use blockchain technology, so how we solve the problem, to make investing in real estate as easy as ordering an Uber. Here, it could be better. And for example, the way it could be better, we could have said here how much time, because it seems to be a time solution, how much time does it take to solve that specific problem? And then, um, and then here we can say how much faster it gets, right? Same thing here, right? Like a bet simplifying the whole process, easy to deposit, easy to use, easy to cash out, right? Um, Now let's have a look at that example, because I think they did a pretty good job also. Here they explain that embedded finance provider remain dependent on banks, and then here, but what we're missing here, so you're following, you should know what's missing, is the fact that we don't see in the headline, we don't see the impact on the ICP, right? Why is the problem that an embedded finance providers remain dependent on banks? What's the big deal about it? And it should be mentioned here in the headline. It is not. So that's where it's bad. But then what I like is that it really worked together here. Griffin is the purpose-built bank to power the embedded finance revolution. Again, what's good here is that it answered directly. What's bad is that you don't know why finance should be embedded, right? So, and why finance should be embedded should be explained somewhere here, where we can say the here when we speak about the context, like the opportunity of embedded finance, right? And if I double click here, we should really say embedded finance has an amazing potential of growth. However, today it's still dependent on bank, but and the reason why it's embedded on bank, we should explain it here. Then we should hear the solution. Now that's it on the solution. So takeaway here is your solution should explain how you solve the problem and the benefit for the users, right? Then let's speak about the product. The goal of the product is to show how it works, right? And here, I should put an asterisk here, because it's not always needed specifically in a pitch that you're going to send to investors. If you're going to do a deck for due diligence, it might be needed, but in general, it's not always needed. But here again, I put an asterisk on my asterisk because every pitch deck is a bit different. But I still want to explain you in case you might need it. And you might need it if you have a product that is a bit more complex to understand, or if the way you solve the problem is not exactly clear, right? Because that's the goal of the product. Explain how you solve the problem. A great example here is this, Penny Lane, all-in-one financial management and account software, right? Like here, this is what we do. Look, right? It doesn't speak about the benefit. It doesn't speak just what we do, just to understand. Another thing, that is nice is showing the workflow of how does it work for your ICP to go through your product, and how does the ICP get to value? What's the process to get there, right? Another good thing is to dive deeper in the mechanics of your product. So I think this is a great one. It's like novel matching process, rigorous measurement base, superior technical thing, blah, 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 right? Like we speak about what's make our product good and unique. So product, I said there's going to be a lot of important things. The product itself can sometimes be covered enough in the solution that you don't actually need this. Now, let's speak about the business model. Now, the business model is pretty straightforward. Is how do you make money? Do you have a SaaS? Do you charge one time? Do you take percentage? Do you have a blend of revenue? How does it work? How does money get inside the company? So, for example, here, this is an okay-ish example. It's like we can do B2C, B2B2C, and B2B. It's like, okay, this is how, they could. Here, the slide is a bit light, in my opinion, so they could go a little deeper about, the percentage that they expect, the type of pricing that they will have. Okay, so in here they put proven traction, good, but, and this is the topic of another video, but this slide could be a little bit more informative. Same for here, right? Charge per onboarding, recurring charge per active user for data and oath. good, like I get what they're doing, it could be a bit more clear. This is an important slide, and sometime you'll be able to combine it with other slides. I'll mention it when we arrive to that slide. But bottom line here is, as a VC, it's important for me to understand how do you make money, because that's the goal that I'm looking for you. Like that's the goal I'm looking in your company. It's like, how this company going to make money, and how is the company going to grow? Do they have a business model that can grow and be sustainable, and that could help them reach the next level? So really important slide. Now, go-to-market strategy. The go-to-market strategy, again, super important. What do you do here? The go-to-market strategy is to tell the investor, hey, this is how I'm going to get customers, right? And here, what I wrote is like, we're going to reach our market by doing X. So what are the initiative? What are the product dynamic that you're going to have? What are the strategy that you have to grow? And also, in what sequence do you going to go to different ICPs, right? There's probably multiple people that can use your product. Who is the one that is the best to accelerate your growth right now and in the future? So for example, here, 7% 7% organic growth in B2C and expanding to providers. Like, it was like, yeah, like, hey, they do. And this is where sometime you can have your, you know, your go-to-market mixed with your business model, right? Like here, they say that they're gonna go to B2C providers, they're gonna go to B2C and expanding to providers, which is, they explain how they accomplish their first 3 million like that by doing this, and then they're going to go to providers. So in this case, this could be considered as a go-to-market strategy and a business model. And to be honest, the key of making a pitch deck is the ability to mix slides together when it makes sense, and to aggregate slide right together. This is not super easy to do, but if you see that there's topics that overlap and that it makes sense to combine them, you should do that. Something that I like here also, there's a lot of problem about that slide, but I like how it explains like the growth loop. We attract user, we activate user, retain user with UGC, which attract new users. Like it explained there, not like, hey, we're going to use social media. Like, hey, everybody can do that, right? What is the unique thing that you're going to grow? You're going to do to grow? And this mechanics here, what they've done here is pretty unique to them. So here you should explain what, and the thing is, if you're like, oh, but I don't have I don't know what to put on that slide. You don't have a pitch deck slide. You have a go-to-market slide. Like how you're gonna go to market is the problem that you currently have. Anyway, let's move to the next slide. The traction. My bad. The competition. So this is an easy slide to fuck up, but this is also an easy slide to do. So good news. What is the goal of the competition? So the goal of the competition slide is to do two things. To show that you are the best at delivering something to your ICP, the best solution for your ICP, that you have a unique wedge, a unique advantage that you deliver better to your ICP, and that on those different items, you have on the different unique things that you deliver to your ICP, you are unique. Those are the most important thing. You're unique and defensible. So let's have a look, right? Here, I've heard people say, oh, you don't want to use the table model, blah, blah. No, it's not a problem to use the table model. But what's the problem is here, modern SaaS experience. What the fuck do I care about modern SaaS experience, right? Our platform offers the best developer experience by enabling engineers to start building and testing for free. Like, what the fuck do I care, right? And here, what you should really put is, what are the things that my customer care for? Like they want speed. Like be clear, right? Like, hey, to achieve the task, if speed is the thing, we take 10 minutes and they take 10 hours. Boom, it's super clear, right? Full stack, and again, full stack, like we developed a suite of added value product to address needs and cover the complete user journey. That's okay. That's okay. I think that's okay, right? But here there's a copywriting problem. But let's say that they said, they had a better copywriting. That's cool, right? Like, our dev needs all of those things, and a dev need all of those things, and they only provide those two, right? Good, right? Why not? Now, what they should have done, and that's the first point, right? Is you need to show that you're delivering a better product experience, and that those are the things that your ICP actually care, which you're doing here. And the second thing, which they're not doing, is how they protect that. What is so hard about building this, right? What is speciality? And this is what is missing here. They should indicate why what they're currently doing is protectable and unique. Why our friends here, the confidential people, they could not build this. You always, and it's not an easy answer. It's not an easy answer, but this is definitely something you should work on, because this is definitely something investor will ask you. Same point here. I'll just cover one. This is not so great, but like gamified. Like, why is it important that it's gamified? Like, who cares if it's gamified, right? Like, do your client care if it's gamified? Like, what does gamification help you? Gamification help you to stay, to have people stay longer on the app. So maybe this is what you should put. Time spent on the app. Okay, hard to get data for this. I agree, but this is what you should think about when you do that, right? Okay, that's it for competition. As a summary, just to make sure I'm clear, the competition slide should answer two questions. Why do you deliver a better experience than anyone else? And how anyone else won't be able to do what you do? Let's now speak about traction. So there's a whole episode to do about traction. Traction is a huge topic, right? I mean, any of those is a huge topic. Think of traction as proving that your shit works, right? Proving that your solution actually solves a problem that people are ready to pay for. Oh, that was beautiful. And so here it can be translated into revenue, because if you have fast growing revenue, it means that a lot of people were ready to buy your solution to solve the problem that they had, and your traction is going up super straight, meaning that a lot of people agree that your shit is right, and you don't have any problem acquiring your client, and meaning you have great traction. And this is the component of traction, right? Like, traction means that traction is kind of the summary that says, like, yeah, this shit is working, right? And so here, again, there's no rule. This startup decided to make two slides about it. This is often true when you're later stage. This startup is later stage. If you're earlier stage, yes, you can show women love us. So the press. So does the press. I'm depressed. Anyway, bad joke. It's good, but don't forget that the most important thing is not your follower base. Like, what I care about is how much money that you make, right? Are people actually buying it is the most important thing, right? So if this startup had revenue, I would have said, like, hey, let's put the revenue here. Like, yes, social is great, but if you cannot convert to social, who cares, right? And those are more like, this one, right? Again, there's a whole topic about this to be covered, because there's a lot of different type of traction. Bottom line is, you should put on this slide anything that prove that your company has a solution that people are ready to buy, and that's it. Now let's jump to the market. The goal of this slide is very simple: is I have a big market, I can grow enough. And the reason why it's important is as a startup, you need to have a big market because you need able to grow fast. And so here, not only you need to show that the market is big, but is also growing. So let's have a look at a few examples. Something that I often see is markets like that, which are good, right? Because the most important thing here, it's hard to go super wrong on your market, because here creating 3.8 billion market by targeting the 20, the XYZ, blah 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 blah. I think that's great, right? Because it tells you where are we starting. We're starting with the East Asian market, okay? So that's what we have here, and then we'll expand, and we see that the market here is big. That's enough, right? The market is big. Do you really need to have TAM, SAM, SUM? It's not bad to have. Is it a necessity? Not particularly, right? And here we have the same thing, right? We have 210 million, blah, 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 blah. Like, hey, this market is big. Boom, right? And this is what you want to convince about, right? Here, someone completely removed the idea of having them some just like, hey, this is the amount of transaction in the market. Wow, it's really big, right? This is the amount of profitability, right? You want to show that the market is juicy. Here, and just to show you that there's no rule, there's no particular slide that you need to try to fit to. The only thing that you need to keep in mind, and this is true for everything that I said, it's like, what should this slide answer? And this slide should answer, this market is big. So here you can say, hey, this is big, and it's, here they say it's big today, and here again, the design I think could use some work, but the design, like the market is big, and tomorrow it's going to be bigger, right? Here we say like, hey, like look, like, well, here the problem is that there's too much shit, right? And so I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh, so many numbers. Again, this is a bit of a different topic. Since you're here, I'll be nice. This is too much, right? I'm trying to look at this, I'm like, oh, and plus there's no headline. So keep it, keep it readable, and don't overload the slide, right? And yeah, that's about it. Now, the team slide. So the team side, again, what's the goal? The goal is to show that you're the best person and that your team is the best team to solve the problem you're solving. And so to do that, you need to show that you have a specific understanding of the problem that you're trying to solve. That's it. So this guy here for the betting company, he already worked in this, which was something in betting, and this was in finance, right? This was also identity check, which are required if you want to do betting, right? In his specific case, he had a larger team, and he had a lot of shit about himself, right? So we created, in this case, this is something that we created. We created a second slide for that, right? Here, and this is a bad example, right? Because you look at this, our team of 20 is already set. And I'm looking at those guys, and I'm like, I could not answer the goal of that slide, which is, why should I care about those guys? I don't know, right? I see those logo, but hey, an internship at Google, and on deck, which is kind of a paid subscription, is not the same shit, as being the chief of marketing of Google, right? So that doesn't work, because I don't know what they have done, right? Here it's better, 32 years in tech companies, Microsoft VP and serial entrepreneur. But here again, like, you're my friend David, you're a serial entrepreneur, then tell me all about your Seri, right? Like, what have you done exactly? And what have you done that relates exactly with what you do at Hive is not clear here. In same thing for here, right? Same thing here. Like, the logos are nice, but I don't exactly know what you're doing. So here, second entrepreneur founder, blah, 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 same thing here, right? So, oh shit. No, but really, if you, each individual should have 2, 3 bullet points that explain specifically what they have done, that connects with what they're currently doing. How can you show the past to assure the future? Wow. I'm a poet today. Anyway, that's about the team side. And now to finish with the ask slide. So I'm sure you'd be wondering, what is the goal of the ask slide? And I'd say, good question. The goal of the ask slide is to explain what, and this is the big mistake that I often see. It's like, oh, we want to raise X. I don't give a shit that you want to raise X. I don't give a shit. I mean, I do, but it's not what I care the most. What I care the most is, at the end of the day, what are you trying to achieve, right? Let's imagine that you're seed. What you're trying to achieve is to reach Series A. And so I want to know, what milestone do you have to reach Series A? We want to reach 1 million in revenue, right? And this is what you want to say. Here I have it, we're raising X to do what, right? So here we want to raise 3 million. Oh, this is bad, right? To at the, like, we don't really care, like, valuation. Should we have valuation here? Not necessarily. Let me find a better example, right? Well, there is no better example. But really, what you should have is, we are raising X to achieve Y, right? And so here, not so bad, but the valuation, it's not a bad idea to have it here, but I don't care so much, right? And here, okay, this is another mistake, right? We want 40% for the team. But what is the team gonna do, right? So as a conclusion here, because I somehow didn't bring some good example. Again, here we're raising 10 million Series A. For what? What do you want to achieve with that, right? I don't care. What you should say is, I'm raising. Look at how convincing I'm going to be. My goal is to reach $1 million in ARR in the next 18 months. To do that, I need to build I need to make my product more scalable. And for this, I need $300,000. And then I need to build a marketing team to do more social. And for this, I need, 500,000, which is, two full-time people working on this and this. Boom, right? Like, and this, like, oh, like, he wants to raise 800K, and I understand how it's going to spend the money, and how does the money relate to the target, right? Like, if you want to generate more revenue, well, you have to do more marketing, right? If you want to expand your product to create more revenue, you'll have to have a tech team, right? That's the thing. That's it. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please drop it down below. Ciao, ciao.